Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna, dear devotees. Then with Pranam. Jai Shri Prabhupada. Start with Mangalacharan. Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yutapada Kamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamsha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamsha Namam Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschata Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhaktavrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna. Okay, we'll continue with our Vandanam, ring of prayers. We have been singing the Damodar, Govinda Damodar Stotram by Srila Bilvamal Thakur. Anybody would like to sing today? We are doing verses 21 to 30. Also share. Anybody wants to sing?
I would like to sing, Prabhuji. Just, yeah.
Yes, Shama Karna Mataji, Hare Krishna.
Prabhuji, can you tell me the parameter how you sing one thing?
Yeah,
Yeah.
sure. Sukham Shayanam
Yeah.
Nilaye Cha Vishnum.
Yeah. Thank you, Prabhuji. सुखं शयानं निलये च विष्णुं देवाशिमुख्या मुनया प्रपन्ना तेनाच्युते तन्मयतं व्रजन्ति गोविन्ददामोदरमाधवेति विहाय निद्रम् अरुणोदयाचे विधाय कृत्यानि च विप्रमुख्य वेदावासेन प्रपा sorry प्रपतान्ति नित्यं गोविन्ददामोदरमाधवेति वृन्दावने गणश्च गोप्यो विलोक्य गोविन्दवियोगकिन्नां राधां जघूषाश्रुविलोचनाभ्यां गोविन्ददामोदरमाधवेति. Prabhuji, can you scroll? Yeah. प्रभातसञ्चारगतनूगवास तद्रक्षणार्थं तनयं यशोदा प्रबोधयात्पानितलेन मण्डं गोविन्ददामोदरमाधवेति प्रवालशोभा इव दीर्घकेश पताम्बुपर्णाशनपूतदेह मूले तरुणामुनया पतान्ति गोविन्ददामोदरमाधवेति एवं ब्रुवाना विरहातुरभृशं व्रजा स्त्रिया कृष्णविषिक्तमानसः विष विषि विश्रीयत लज्जं रुरुधु स्म सुस्वरं गोविन्ददामोदरमाधवेति गोपीकदाचिन्मणिपिञ्जरास्तं सुखं वचो वाचयितुं प्रवृत्ता आनन्दकन्दाव्रजचन्द्रकृष्ण गोविन्ददामोदरमाधवेति गोवत्सभालै शिशुकाकपक्षं बध्नान्तमम्भोज दलायताक्षम् उवाच माता चिबुकं गृहीत्वा गोविन्ददामोदरमाधवेति प्रभातकाले वरवालवागौ गोरक्षनाथं द्रुतवेत्रदण्ड आकारयं असुरनन्तं माद्यं गोविन्ददामोदरमाधवेति जलस्य कालीयमर्दनाय यदा कदम्बादपतं मुरारे चक्रुषुरेत्य गोपा गोविन्ददामोदरमाधवेति गोविन्ददामोदरमाधवेति गोविन्ददामोदरमाधवेति. Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, Dandvat Pranams.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Shamakarna Mataji. That was so melodious. It transported us to Vrindavan. Hare Bol. Hare Krishna. Okay. Anybody would like to read the translations for these beautiful verses from 21 to 30?
Prabhuji.
Shriya Mataji, yes. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Devarshi Narad and other Munis are always surrendered to Lord Vishnu, who happily rests upon his couch. They always chant the names of Govinda, Damodar, and Madhava, and thus they attain spiritual forms similar to his. Rising at dawn, having performed their rituals and chanted Vedic hymns, the best of the learned Brahmanas always loudly chant Govinda, Damodar, Madhava. In Vrindavan, seeing Sri Radhika overwhelmed with separation from Govinda, groups of Gopas and Gopis sang with tears in their lotus eyes, Govinda, Damodar, O Madhava. The cows having already gone out to graze early in the morning, Mother Yashoda gently roused her sleeping son with the palm of her hand, softly saying, Govinda, Damodar, Madhava. With long matted hair, the color of coral, and bodies purified by eating only leaves, water, and air, the sages sit beneath the trees and chant Govinda, Damodar, and Madhava. After speaking these words, the ladies of Raj, who were so attached to Krishna, felt extremely agitated by their imminent separation from him. They forgot all worldly shame and loudly cried out, O Govinda, O Damodar, O Madhava. Sometimes a gopi is engaged in teaching a parrot within a jeweled cage to recite names like Anandakanda, source of bliss, Vraj Chandra, Krishna, Govinda, Damodar, and Madhava. The lotus-eyed lord was tying the shikha of a coward boy to the tail of a calf when his mother caught him, lifted up his chin, and said, Govinda, Damodar, Madhava. In the early morning, a group of his favorite cowherd boys arrived, stick canes in hand, to take care of the cows. They addressed the unlimited, primeval personality of Godhead, Govinda, Damodar, Madhava. When Lord Murari jumped from the Kadamba branch into the water to chastise the Kalya serpent, all the gopis and cowherd boys went there and cried out, O Govinda, Damodar, Madhava. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Shriya Mataji and Shamakarna Mataji, for wonderful recitation and translation. Yes, so nice. And every verse we see, there's a different personality who's saying Govinda, Damodara, Madhava, right? So there's starting from Yashodamaya to all the sages and munis and gopas and gopis and all wonderful devotees of the Lord are chanting these holy names. So how fortunate and how wonderful it is that we are able to chant these same names that all these wonderful personalities chanted to attract the love and loving glance of Govinda, Damodar, Madhav. So that is the quality of humility we are trying to develop, right? Like we don't have to sing our own things, anything. Everything is given to us by our acharyas. And when we sing these prayers, we are basically following in the footsteps of all these exalted devotees of the Lord. So that is cultivating the mood of humility. And through the mood of humility, through the mood of these humble prayers, we may be able to open the, like we have been saying over the last few days, it opens the kingdom of the doors of the heart. So kingdoms of of the Lord are opened. It's like just like these prayers are like knocking on the door with humility. We are knocking on the doors, and then the doors cannot be opened from outside. It will always be opened from inside, and that will depend on the mercy of the Lord. So, like Radheshyam Prabhu was mentioning, path of bhakti is the path of grace. It is not just a path of our own individual prowess. So it's all dependent. While the the sadhana is important to achieve sadhya, but sadhana alone cannot bring us the love of God. It will be the kripa, it will be the mercy that will have to come from the gurus, from the acharyas, and from the Lord. So by reciting these prayers, maybe one day attract the mercy of the acharyas. Okay, so with that we'll continue our reading of Srila Prabhupada Lilamrit, chapter 20, staying high forever. So again, with these prayers, maybe stay high forever. So yesterday we saw Srila Prabhupada was continuing to perform his Sankirtan, continuing to perform his Sadhu Sangha festival as he was doing in Tompkins Square Park. And more and more young people, more hippies and more devotees were being attracted by the wonderful prayers that he was singing with humility. He was praying to all the predecessor acharyas. Of course, they were not able to understand any of those Sanskrit verses that he was singing as Mangalacharan, but still, it was attracting all these pure souls towards him. And more young devotees in their 20s and 30s. I think mostly their 20s. Yesterday we saw, I think, Bob and Dan and their families. They were visiting the park and they were attracted by the chanting of the holy names. So, okay, so we'll continue here. I think, yeah, Dan. Anybody would like to read today? Dan, the Swami. If not, I'll continue.
I can continue, Prabhuji.
Yeah, Nalin Prabhu. Yes, please go ahead. Yeah.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Then the Swami was not calling attention to himself, and at first I didn't attribute any importance to an elderly Indian man sitting off to one side. He did not seem to have any special function in the chanting, but it gradually dawned on me who he was. He was the same Swami I had read about in the paper and seen in the storefront. After a while he spoke, but I could not hear him. Still I was impressed that he was a very modest person, not interested in getting himself up on a pedestal. He didn't go strutting around, but was still with inner peace, strength, and knowledge. Bob, all his disciples were there around his feet. They were chanting, and I tried to chant along and learn the mantra too. I had heard the chanting of Hare Krishna once before at a peace march, and I had found it very beautiful. Then Swami spoke. I had the impression that this person was not earthly, and I thought, here is the person I'm looking for. He seemed to be different from anyone else, like he came from some other place or universe. I was attracted. After a second kirtana, the Swami and his followers rolled up their rug, picked up their instruments, and began to leave. Bob walked back to the swings on the other side of the park to find his wife and child, but the image of the Swami stayed with him. He seemed different from anyone else. His accent had been thick, yet Bob resolved to go to the storefront in a few days to hear him speak. Here is a leader, thought Bob. Dan and his wife sauntered off into the park, sampling the various groups of musicians. His wife was surprised that Dan, who was usually shy, had danced at the kirtan. He said he might go over to the storefront one day and hear the Swami speak. Judy just stood there hallucinating. She said a stay high forever pamphlet in her hand and read it over and over. While she was thinking, the whole event must have come from another planet, and a man walked up and asked, "Would you like to go where the Swami is?" She nodded. At the storefront, one of the devotees offered Judy some prasadam, a chapati, and then invited her up to the Swami's room. Upstairs, she entered the large front room, which was filled with uh, fragrant smoke. There were tall flower um, vases and sesame seeds were on the floor. She saw the Swami bow before the little picture of Lord Chaitanya and his associates and then stand and leave the room. Closing the door behind him, closing the door behind him, Judy decided that he must have been bowing to the floor itself. Around her, everyone is softly chanting on beats, and although she could not make out the words, and it seemed peaceful, one of the Swami's disciples told her she could come into the back room, and she followed, curious. The Swami was sitting there on his mat, looking effulgent. There were about 10 other people in the room. Prabhupada asked her if she liked the chanting in the park, and she replied, "I loved it." "Do you live near here?" he asked. Judy flashed on her idea that she was all the she was the all-pervading truth, and answered in a way which she thought must have sounded very mystical. "Oh, I live very near." "Good," said Swamiji. "Then you can come for our morning kirtan and class." Then she realized that she did not live so near, and that it would mean traveling an hour and a half from the Bronx to visit the Swami. But she decided that since he had asked her, she would come. Then she thought, "I am making this up," but Prabhupada assured her, as if knowing her thoughts, "This process is nothing you have made up. It is very old, very simple, and sublime." He learned back. "We are eternal," he said, "and everything around us is temporary." Judy was now coming down from the LSD. By the time she left the Swami, it was late. She had wanted to stay overnight, but the boys hadn't allowed her. But she was determined to join. For Bob, it seemed natural to follow up on what he had seen in the park. He began attending the evening classes, and he started reading the Bhagavatam at home and chanting He framed the picture from the Bhagavatam dust jacket depicting the spiritual sky and placed it on his small homemade altar. He, he would offer flowers before the picture and sit before it, chanting Hare Krishna. Bob was fascinated by the philosophy and the books and the classes, and from the very beginning he was amazed that Swamiji's teaching answered all his questions. He listened carefully and accepted. It seemed like once um, I once I decided that he was telling the truth. I just accepted everything he said. Not that part of it, not part of it, it was the truth, and the rest of it I would have to think about. October 19th, it was Monday evening after the Sunday Kirtana in the park, and Dan arrived at the storefront for the Kirtan. The Kirtan was in full swing, and when he entered, the first thing he noticed was some people playing on the innards of an upright piano leaning against the wall near the door. A boy handed him some wooden sticks, and he sat down and joined in the kirtana. Then came the Swami's lecture, which Dan thought was long and serious about how sexual desire causes bondage and suffering. The temple was crowded and stuffy, and Dan was shocked by the lecture, but he stayed on because he knew there would be another.
Hare Krishna. We are not able to hear you, Naren Prabhu. Looks like you're on mute.
Hello?
Yes, now I can hear you.
Oh, sorry. Where I left?
The temple was crowded and stuffy.
Okay. By the lecture, but he stayed on. Okay, I'll read again that line. The temple was crowded and stuffy, and Dan was shocked by the lecture, but he stayed on because he knew there would be another kirtana. He felt uneasy that Swami's followers were all celibate, and but because he liked the kirtanas, he resolved to keep coming. The Swami wasn't quite what Dan had expected. He had imagined something of a light-hearted Zen Roshi, laughing and joking, with sparkling eyes and words filled with paradoxes. But he found the Swami just the opposite, very straightforward and even cutting in his speech, and his mouth turned down at the corners, making him look mournful. Then happily took to the kirtanas, thinking they would aid his impersonal meditation. But the lecturers kept stressing that God was a person. Then registered, he mentally debated with Prabhupada. He was partial to Dr. Radhakrishnan's interpretations of the Gita, and yet the Swami often launched ruthless attacks against such impersonal ideas. Gradually, Dan saw his impersonal barriers crumble, and he came to admit that on every count, the Swami was right. Judy began attending both morning and evening classes. She had to rise by 5 o'clock to get to the storefront on time, and her mother and father protested, but Judy did not care. She would ride an hour and a half on the subway dawn, before dawn, downtown to the Swami's meetings, where she would be only girl present. When the Swami heard that Judy was an art student, he asked her to paint for Krishna. She set up a canvas in the front room of the apartment, and under his guidance, she began painting. For her first assignment, he asked her to paint a portrait of his Guru Maharaj, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati. He gave her a photo and instructed her there should be a flower garland around Guru Maharaj's neck. The tilaka should be yellowish, not white, and there should be no effulgence or halo around his head. Bob. I began chanting and studying Srimad Bhagavatam at home and attending the Kirtana and classes at the storefront. After the last Kirtana in the evening, the Swami would take a bowl made of simulated wood and a little paring knife and a couple of apples that had been sitting on her edge of his lectern, and he would cut the apples up in the little bowl and hand the bowl to disciple. The disciple would then offer him the first piece, and he would pop it into his mouth. The rest of pieces of apple would be distributed to the crowd. I remember one time when he was chewing on his piece of apple, he spit the seeds out on the floor up against the wall. They bounced up the wall onto the floor next to the dais. And I was thinking how wonderful. No one else can do that. No one else would have the nerve to do such a thing.
Well, thank you so much. Yeah, it's not here for today. Anything that you want to share from today's reading? Anything that you liked?
Yeah, probably there was good, conversation division. Like overall, I can see whenever somebody is um coming and getting in touch with Krishna through various channels or forms, right? Anyway, Krishna will attract him or her, the devotee, right? So in this conversation, we saw how devotees are, getting associated either through paint or through chanting or attending kirtanas. So that matters. Even you discuss through a particular topic, either it is a debate or it is argument, whatever, but somewhere we are getting associated with Krishna. That is the overall my observation of this 4-5 paragraphs.
Yes, Prema. Yeah, there are different. That's why we have different limbs of bhakti, right? And different devotees are attracted by different limbs. Right? Somebody is attracted to Shravanam, somebody is attracted to Kirtan, somebody is attracted to Prasadam. But Krishna is all attractive, and he is the samam bonam of all rasas. Right? No other no other incarnation of the Lord has everything, all the qualities that we say, like Johnson 64 qualities. Krishna has. Other incarnations may have only limited those. But since so Krishna can attract anybody and everybody, and through all these different limbs of bhakti. Yeah, here we see there are devotees somewhere impersonalists, like this girl Judy, and then I think Bob he was saying everything like voidism, right? So like we're saying Prabhupada's pranam prayers, nirvishesha shunyavadi, right? Pashadya Deshataranya. So he is an acharya for everybody, impersonalists, voidism. Because he came here in this country which was filled with impersonalism and voidism, and then he gave them the pure process of bhakti. So that is the pure devotee of the Lord, and through their purity, through their potency and their power, they can preach the message of the Lord because they have that humility that they have nothing. Even despite having all the qualifications, they consider themselves as the eternal servant of the Lord. So when that humility is there, then the mercy comes, and with the mercy, the power comes. And yeah, we can see all of these, like you said, all of these different people are attracted just by his simplicity. Yes. Thank you, Nalan Prabhu. Anybody else would like to share anything?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Anandani
Hare
Gopika.
Krishna. Thank you, Nalan Prabhu, for reading. I was just thinking that all these people who got attracted and later got initiated and took the instructions to heart, they are all our senior acharyas and our Guru Varga currently. And what were the qualities that they had, that got them into Krishna consciousness, despite of having no previous connection to this culture, to the movement, to Krishna. So in Prabhupada's mercy and Prabhupada's pure potency was there, but also they had themselves had certain qualities. Like there was a line there which said that I think it was it Bob that he said, once I determined that Prabhupada was telling the truth, I took it in whole. I didn't say that, okay, this is truth, the rest of it I have to think about it. So they had complete faith. Judy, it says she traveled 1.5 hours twice a day from Bronx to downtown, Lower East Side. So, so much of discipline, faith, trust in Prabhupada's words, and then, using their own abilities in service of Prabhupada. There was one person said he started reading Bhagavatam, and then he made a little altar for himself and started chanting in front of the altar. So I also feel that these were the qualities that, that are the ones that led them to surrender. And that's the reason they have perfected their lives and have become our acharyas. So something to learn from these exalted souls.
Yes, very nice, Mataji. Yeah, none of us, that's why none of us should claim to be perfect. We can never be perfect. Perfection is a myth. But yeah, with practice, we can make progress. And yeah, like you rightly said, we can learn, and we can learn from their lives. Of course, when they came to Prabhupada, they were not perfect or they didn't have any qualifications. But by sincerely following his instructions and developing that faith, right, and surrendering to his instructions and surrendering to his words, they perfected their life or came to this stage of perfection. It's a journey, but yeah, that is what we learn. And like you said, yeah, sometimes even again they may have come to this situation through many lifetimes, right? So we cannot say what they had done in the previous life, because right now again Krishna is just performing all this leela for us to show that it doesn't matter what condition of life we are in. If we are sincere, we are serious, we can take up to the process of bhakti no matter what condition we are in, right? And that is the hope for everybody, for us also. Of course, we are in a good situation that we are able to chant the holy names. Of course, that means that the Lord is merciful, the acharyas are merciful, that we are able to sit peacefully in our homes and chant the holy names, because that also is not possible for many people. But yeah, like sometimes we have that deja vu moment, right? Like this person, I think it was Dan or Bob, one of them, when they were saying that when he was standing at the bus stop, he saw Swamiji, he almost felt like he walked into the storefront and he was sitting there and listening. And then he realized, no, he was probably he was hallucinating. But those kind of deja vu moments, I think I'm sure most of us would have had. And sometimes we feel, oh, maybe I've been here, something like this, right? So, and Judy walking or coming 1.5 hours, so again, how much of faith she had. And actually, at Sadhusanga, when we met Radhika Kripa Mataji, she was saying something similar. She was saying, when Guru Maharaj told her, Gopal Krishna Maharaj told her to, she just met him once in Vrindavan, and then, when he told her to come to Mangalarti, that she should Mangalarti, she would drive from her home, which was more than an hour and a half away, to the temple every morning. And then once Maharaj asked her, "Are you not scared? You're coming like in the morning at 4 o'clock." And she said, "No, yeah, I am scared, but I just close everything of my car, like all the windows, everything, and I just chant Nrsimha prayers, and then I drive. That's it, and then I reach." So, yeah, all these, again, that is the potency of pure devotees, that they can just with one instruction they can completely cleanse away all impurities of sincere disciples, and then all fear is lost. Yeah. Thank you, Mataji, for sharing that. Okay, anybody else would like to say anything? Okay, then we'll conclude here. Thank you so much for your association, as always. We'll end with Vaishnavanam prayers. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya eva cha patidanam pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Anantakoti Vaishnavrind ki jai, Jagadguru Shri Prabhupada ki jai, Nitai Gaur Premanande, Hari Hari Bol, Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.